Hi.
Come on in. So good to see you. Hi, I'm Maria Theresa Barbist. I'm an artist and musician, and originally also a psychologist from Austria. But I've been in the States for 15 years now, almost 14 years, and in the Bakehouse for 10 years.
Oh my
So
God.
it's been quite a while. As you can see, my studio is getting pretty full. Um, I want to talk a little bit maybe about what's on the wall, if that's okay.
Yes, all of it. And by the way, there is some construction because the bakehouse is located in Wynwood. And Wynwood is ever growing and ever changing and ever constructing. So if
Yeah.
you hear some of that, I'm sorry. But we're gonna work it out. How long have you been in the bakehouse? It's
Since 2015.
how'd you know that that was the right fit for you?
Well, it was when I moved here, my husband, Eddie Arroyo, he knew about the bakehouse, obviously, because he's from here. And so he showed me, the building and the community here, and I walked around. And yeah, and then when I moved here, it was like right away. I applied for a studio, and basically a month after I got here, I got the studio upstairs, a really
Yes, I remember
small
upstairs.
one with like a column in the middle.
Yes.
And I was upstairs for a little while, but they were talking about construction already back then,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen until now. But so they asked me to move downstairs just in case, and so I've been in this studio now for the most of that time. For at least probably 8 years I've been in this studio.
And it's changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great space. And I always call it, in a way, a hippie commune for artists because you're able to exchange ideas and meet with other artists. It seems like such a cool experience to do that.
Oh yeah, it's been amazing, and it's also been like it almost feels like I've been in already like five different bakehouses, right? Because
Right.
over time it has changed so much. When I first moved in, there were still a lot of like classes going on as well. So I was able to do a printmaking class, in our printmaking lab, and it was more like the artists were maybe lesser known, but it was a lot of like community and a lot of helping each
It
other
was a little bit
out
of a
and
secret.
learning, and it
Yeah.
was it was still very low key,
Yeah, very
right?
underground at the
Very
time.
underground, very underground. We did have open studios every month, so that was kind of like always, oh, I have to get my studio cleaned up, I have to get my studio ready for open studios. But it was still very much like underground, right? And
Yeah.
then over the years, and especially since Kathy Leff has become the director, it has become, more artists are, better known, successful, have gallery representation,
Yes.
have museum shows, have solo shows all over the world, really, and the exhibition spaces have become more curated in a sense of like
Yeah.
less of like just artists getting together and putting a show up, and more like plan ahead and more like professionally curated in a sense.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so ever since I moved to the States, I was in love with the USBS collection boxes. It's just something when you're from a different country, seeing those objects, they're almost like sculptures, and they almost could be in like an animated like Pixar movie, I think, because they're so friendly and cute, and I love blue. And so I've always, already when I was living in California, took pictures of USBS collection boxes. But then in January, my neighbor Gabriela Gamboa gave me this camera, Lomo camera, that takes this Instax film that is landscape. And so I started to take pictures of all the collection boxes, like in my neighborhood, and I went up to 200 pictures of like my collection boxes in like Miami Beach, Miami, Opelika, all the way up north Miami. And I just started to put like the first book together with the collection boxes. And
So it's going to be a book?
yeah, so one book is already done. I'm waiting for the sample. And the first book is about all the collection boxes in Miami Beach. It's called North Bay Village and Bay Harbor Island. So kind of like, those are like about, it's going to be a 150-page book. So I kind of had to divide them up because it was getting way out of hand for the book to make it all into one book. So it's kind of like a volume one. And then the next book will be Miami. And then after that, you know, I still have to take a lot of photographs of collection boxes that are kind of like more further away from my own zip code because I was going by radius.
Yes.
But for the book, I went by zip code. So now I'm kind of like doing all the collection boxes per zip code in Miami-Dade County, and there are 500, more than 500. So it's
There's
gonna take me
a
while.
lot.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes an object that we forget it's there.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of like gained visibility when before the last election, so many collection boxes got removed that there was like this public outcry because people use mail ballots, right? And then they needed their collection boxes. And so there is actually a rule when a collection box doesn't work enough, like get enough letters or get enough postcards, then it's being removed, right? But of course, if you do that during an election or shortly before an election, people are going to get really upset and also think about, oh, is this politically motivated that boxes are removed, right? And also, like when you can kind of take a look here at this little map, you can see that there are a ton of collection boxes located in South Beach, in Key Biscayne, and then, you know, Coral Gables, downtown. But then there are very few, and I canvassed all this area, like in, you know, Little Haiti, Wynwood, and then going north, like you can see how little like blue dots you can see, right, compared to like South Beach or the beach in general, and then here. So it's also like for me very, very interesting, like what zip codes have the most collection boxes, and then also which collection boxes have been removed. Even from like the USBS updated database, there were a lot of them were removed in downtown because there was so much construction going on. But there was also collection box removed that was close to the beach on a kind of like a gated community that was like a rich community, right? And the security guard was kind enough to say like, well, I would let you take a picture, but unfortunately it was removed. Can you please get it back, right? And I was like, well, I do my best, but unfortunately I don't have a lot of influence. But also another interesting fun fact for Miami Beach, and especially up north, was that I could not access every USPS collection box if they were in a gated community. It was like, maybe they let me in, maybe they don't let me in. There are some strict gated communities that don't let anyone in, especially if you say like, oh, I want to take a picture of a collection box. They're like, yeah, you just came to take a picture of some kind of famous person, or we can't let you in, right? So that's also marked. You can see it in the book when it says no access, like I was not able to access the box.
Do you find that the ones that are removed are usually located in areas where maybe it's just poor areas, or it depends?
They're not even there to begin with.
They're not even there to begin with?
They're not even there to begin with. Like, for example, my neighborhood is being gentrified right now, 33127, like Buena Vista, because it's close to the design district.
Right.
But it was well, originally it was you know, built in the 50s. It was a good neighborhood, but then they built I-95 through it, you know, and so it was like a kind of like more challenging neighborhood, right?
Right.
So there is not even a single mailbox in 33127. There is a post office now. They relocated it to a little bit south of the design district in Wynwood, but the collection boxes there are inside the building. So it's not really a collection box. It's like these wall boxes, right?
Right.
So you can't get to it if the post office is closed, right?
Right.
So I don't count them as collection box in my sense, in the blue box sense, right?
Right.
So 33127 is one of the codes that doesn't have a collection box. However, Star Island also doesn't have a collection box, right? But that probably also has to do with access, right?
Access to it, right.
I mean, the USPS, the mailman would have to get on a ferry to go over there because it's like so high-end exclusive, right? So they also don't have a mailbox. And one of the mailboxes that was removed, that I got confirmation that it was removed, was in a very rich, like, gated community island, right?
Right.
So, and they were just as upset about it as anyone else would be, I guess.
Oh, okay. My gosh, what a tremendous project. I'm so happy you're doing this.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's been like, so I did most of the photographs in January, kind of like before my semester started, because I'm also like I teach at Broward College and I teach for Barry University in middle schools.
Yes.
And so this was kind of like the months that I had off, and I was just like knocking out like 10 boxes a day, driving around, all over Miami. It was really exciting, and I got really into it. It was very hard to stop. And if I wouldn't have had my teaching job, I probably wouldn't have stopped. I would have just kept going. But I just had to kind of like take a break. And then the weather is now obviously really hot too.
It's unbearable.
Yeah, but I hope in the winter when I'm on break again that I can do like the next 200.
Oh my gosh. Take us through your studio. I want to know what a typical day is for you.
So, well, typically I sit a lot on this chair that I got from Christina Peterson, who is also a Bakehouse resident. I really love this chair, and I've been working a lot on my computer. I recently helped organize a film festival in San Francisco.
You did?
That's the Studio 8 Film Festival that is named after Studio 8, where the Kuchar brothers and a lot of really amazing filmmakers made, experimental, low budget films, and
those are my favorite films to watch now.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
amazing. And so I went to the San Francisco Art Institute, and unfortunately, after more than 150 years, it had to close because of financial issues.
Right.
And
Oh
so
no.
we started an alumni organization called SF Artist Alumni to kind of keep the community together. And I'm I'm one of the co-founders. I'm the president of the board. And so we've been working a lot on, organizing exhibitions for alumni, this film festival. We were at an art fair in Europe, in Stockholm, showcasing alumni work. So it's been really exciting. I've been doing that for 4 years.
This is so wonderful.
So I work a lot on that.
Is your
And then
desk?
There's my little scanner, where I scan all the Polaroids, my books, my kind of like vision board here.
I love a vision board.
Yeah. Or like the things I care about.
And most importantly, you have a record player.
Yes. And I'm currently listening to the 1975 that I kind of discovered because of...
Oh really? You just discovered
Yeah,
them?
because of Taylor Swift dating.
No.
I did not know about them, and I really got into them.
They're great.
And they kind of inspire like my new record that I'm working on. So
Yes, because you have to talk to us about My Auxiliary Ego.
Yeah, so this is the first record I did as My Auxiliary Ego, and this happened during the pandemic. And I have been writing songs for about 10 years. I started writing songs in San Francisco. I had a voice teacher there, and she was a songwriter too. And so, I took voice classes and then started writing songs. And so during the pandemic, I was like, well, I have a lot of time on my hands, and, all the musicians were unemployed. And
Right.
So actually, again, my neighbor, Gabriela Gamboa's son, is a professional musician and producer. And so he produced this record for me, and Pedro Bazan, who you just met,
Yes.
my other studio neighbor,
Pedro's so nice.
made an amazing music video for me for one of the songs. Like
I
really
saw,
professional.
see, I
Yeah.
have the CP. because you gave it to me as a gift, and I absolutely love it. My favorite song is Hurricane. I
Wow.
love Hurricane, and I love Frozen Statuette, and of course Sign of Life
Yeah.
is incredible. I'm a big fan of folk 60 singer-songwriter, and to me your voice is I think a mix between Francois Hardy and Nico.
Oh my God.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to leave details for the EP down below in the description because you have to listen to all 6 songs. They're on YouTube. I will link my favorites. You have to listen to them all. I think this is amazing. It's such an incredible, incredible album, and the songs are just fantastic. How
Thank
did
you
you do
so
the
much.
video?
So the video for the a lot of the videos because I've been making films for so long, especially 16 millimeter films. Like I had so much material that I could come back to, and since the songs were written in this time, they kind of like fit together really easily. So most of the songs I kind of like had the material already. I was just editing it, right? But for Sign of Life, Pedro and I collaborated, and Pedro is this really high-end photographer, and he does like really professional video shoots.
The visual is absolutely
So
stunning.
yeah, so we had like a lot of my artwork in it. Augusto Esquivel, who is also an artist here, did this huge installation with my sculptures. And then, I had a makeup person.
Yeah.
And I had one of my dance teachers from California. His name is Soto. He was like working with me on the choreography. And then we had like professional lighting. We had like all kinds of like vision boards, and like everything was like really scripted, and that was all Pedro. And he had a team of like professional videographers, like and DP, I believe, right? And then all our director. So it was like really really exciting to have like, because I always shoot so low key when I shoot, like I take my Bolex and I just go and shoot, or I perform in front of the camera myself and just set it up. So it was really exciting to have like a whole team. Like I think we were like in the end 15 people or something like that helping that day. You know, painting. I was painting backdrops. They're still there. The black canvases here. Those were these here. And these were the backdrops for the music video, and then I kind of liked them a lot, so I kind of stretched them on canvas. So I painted these huge backdrops, and yeah, there was a lot going on. It was really really cool. It was a great team, and it was just like cool to have like this collaboration with like so many people, because I'm not used to collaborating with like this big group of people, on
How's the
projects.
process for songwriting for you? Like, are they usually in your mind for a long time?
Yeah, they are. So I usually start with the lyrics, and then, once the lyrics are kind of at a certain point, I start writing chords, and I usually write them on my guitar,
Hmm.
sometimes on the piano, and yeah, and then I kind of like just work on them, and it takes a long time. Even like I recorded a demo for the new record, and that was like already like a year ago. This is all like working title, but it's gonna be called "Coping Strategies for Major Life Events" by my auxiliary ego. And
I love that
so
title.
yeah, and because the first one didn't have a record, he didn't have a name. It was like self-titled, right?
Self-titled, that's right.
So kind of like once the songs are written, and these songs I've been performing for a long time, these new songs, because I've been playing at the Luna Star Cafe a lot. And so it was kind of like, because I was playing them live a lot, I kind of like worked through them, and I worked with a voice teacher again here, and he also kind of gave me some input in the songs, and working with a couple of friends, and then Rodrigo Gamboa, who was the producer of the first record, is gonna produce this one again, hopefully like over the summer or fall. And so he brings a lot to the table with the arrangements, and because he plays the guitar really, really well. So a lot comes to the song for the recorded version from Rodrigo's vision of like arranging it, and yeah, and then he's always asking me to make like this kind of like a board, like a visual board for each song, and
I can't tell you how important it is to have a visual board. It's
yeah,
not some cheesy, like, new age. No, it's absolutely important to visualize. I love that you
yeah.
do this. Yes.
And it also like so I made a demo last year that was really raw, and then I kind of like worked a lot on my voice because that's always for me the hardest part, because I feel so like insecure still after all this time. But so I'm still trying to work a lot on my voice, and then I re-recorded them recently to kind of like tighten up some ideas and tempo and stuff like that. And so they all exist as a demo version right now. And
Yeah.
then I was hoping that I could get a couple of grants to actually go in a recording studio this time, because that was just really a dream of mine.
But you were awarded a grant, no, from the county?
Yes, I was. I got the Miami Individual Artist Grant.
You got the Mia, yes.
Yeah, MIA, right?
Yes.
And I got another grant from South Arts as well, so that's been really cool. But it's also been, it's just covering expenses right now. So
Right.
it's for this project. If I would really like to go into a recording studio, I would probably need a little bit more money than that.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. But the grants have been really helpful. I'm working on an art piece that is going to be in the Achugari Gallery. That's an exhibition curated by Dani Tapia from Art Scene 365.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like this structure constructed where there is going to be a painting stretched over it, and a video of me moving in front of that painting is going to play inside. So it's
Yes,
the
because
first
you
time.
have in the videos, you have a lot of physicality
Yeah.
with your body, and it truly is performance art as well.
It is. That's where I'm really coming from. So if you can see like the paintings itself, I've been like painting large scale for actually ever since I went to school in San Francisco. This was kind of the size that I had. But before I went to the San Francisco Art Institute, I was doing a training in art therapy at the Tamalpa Institute, which is movement-based art therapy training. Since I come from psychology and psychotherapy, right, this was kind of like, I took a sabbatical, and this is what I wanted to learn before I go back to Austria, back to the hospital, like, working.
Mm-hmm.
But that training really kind of like started something inside of me where I felt like more like myself than ever before, right? So we did a lot of dance, but it's expressive dance, right? But we also had to do for the training, we drew a self-portrait, a life size, and then developed a performance on the basis of this self-portrait. And that kind of like concept I kind of took into art school, and I started to do all these large scale paintings that I put on a wall and then danced in front of them. Or if they were more sculptural, like for example this object over there, like this kind of like bird-like sculpture. I did a lot of like sculptures like that you can see in the Sign of Life music video.
That's right.
Then
Yeah.
I would perform with them, like as a prop almost, right? And and so coming to Miami, I came to Miami because I was invited to a performance festival, and that's how I met my husband. And then I ended up moving here, but I didn't continue my performance practice as much. And then I started to do this painting series, and I ended up putting them outside in the parking lot. Like we have this beautiful long wall at the Bakehouse, and performing in front of them, like so doing performances for video more. Maybe also inspired by the music video.
Right.
And so then I ended up making the paintings bigger and bigger, so they were kind of like the whole wall and moving in front of them, so my body is kind of like completely inside, so it's not kind of like moving between several panels. And I really love that, and then there's something kind of like really came together. And so yeah, I'm excited to exhibit that, like one painting of that new work in September. The opening is going to be in September in like a new way. And then it's kind of like the painting is creating like this space where you then inside can see the video, kind of like a room holding that kind of like more intimate, work. And so I'm really excited about that. I had a lot of fun making the videos and painting. Like I kind of like had to stop myself painting because you can see my space. It's just like, so this is a whole series that is based on trauma. It's called Fallstudie Trauma, or in German, case study trauma. And I started when the pandemic hit, and then I did, a series of 3 hours on like different events that happened, like Surfside, when the building collapsed, and then the war in Ukraine started, and then my father passed away during this time, and then kind of like the final 3 was kind of like this, kind of like finding a solution, in the sense of like I was always working like with this art therapy concept of identify, confront, release, right? Like, and then the next one, identify, confront, release, and working kind of through this, through the trauma, or through this, how I experienced it, and so kind of like finding a way out of that cycle, in a sense, at the end. So that was a really, really intense time for me, and painting always takes a lot out of me. So I don't really function that well when I'm doing this like really intense work.
I can tell from brushstrokes.
Yeah. So it's very much working through a lot of material, like psychological material, emotional material, and also the dancing, like, is another confrontation with the, with the almost like subconscious, imagery that comes out.
I don't think people realize how healing dance is.
Yeah.
Because your body releases so much when you're doing it.
Yeah. And a lot of, what happens in trauma is also stored in the body. Like, people
For
don't
years,
realize.
forever.
Yeah. Like even generational trauma, right? And so for me, the dancing and the moving has been really crucial in kind of like integrating the process, kind of like in the sense of also change, right? Like, change happens, I feel, when I'm able to move through it physically, and so that was really important for this series, and also for this new series that I did, where I did 5 large scale paintings. They're all rolled up, that kind of like even went deeper into that idea of working through emotional trauma, and then kind of like finding a way through, but also not just in visual language, but also through the movement. So I thought that was really, really important for myself.
Do you have any idea of what other projects you may want to work on, or is there anything else you want to do or try?
So, well, right now I'm working on a book for the collection box series, right? So there's going to be this first volume that is almost done. I'm just waiting for the kind of sample, and I'm going to be continuing. Probably it's going to take 5 books to cover whole of Miami-Dade County.
So that's going to take a really long time.
Yeah, so I have like 200 photographs right now, but I'm going to probably need more than 300 to kind of completely cover Miami-Dade County. But that's a project I'm really excited about. And then the record is going to take a very long time, because the thing about a record is like that the recording is only like a really small part. Then it comes to design of since I like doing vinyls, the design of the vinyl and the cover and all of that, right? And then like taking, distributing it and getting it out into the world is kind of like
It's a work, and it's a whole thing of itself.
I do want to get back into playing live more again, because I kind of like stopped a little bit just to focus on recording. And so it kind of like is a little bit of a different way of thinking about songs than performing them. But I had a performance at Locust Project for their Dill Night.
You did?
And that was so cool, because there was this artist that created imagery based on my performance online. I like digital imagery.
Yes.
It was like 3D modeling, and it was such a great experience. And so I really feel like I do want to get back into performing more music, and hopefully also performing more with the paintings
Yes.
live again.
Do you know when your next performance will be?
So I'm working on a performance that will be during that exhibition at Chugari Gallery. So that starts in September, and it's probably not going to be during opening night, but maybe in the course of the exhibition. Because that's going to be new for me, because the painting is going to be stretched in the round, kind of, right? And so I'm really excited to kind of work on that once it's in the space, to feel that out. Yeah, kind of like doing more live movement performances would be exciting again as well. And yeah, and then just hopefully being able to continue to paint again, because that's where my heart is.
Your heart lies in here.
But right now I'm a little bit limited with my space
Here.
here.
Now, I remember this chair.
The rocking chair.
The rocking chair.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, can you talk a little bit about what this is?
Yeah, so the rocking chair was the first furniture at all in my studio upstairs, right? So it was the first thing I bought from my studio here in Miami at Bargain Barn in Wynwood. And Elisa Batista was a neighbor upstairs, a studio neighbor, and she and we developed this concept of, interviewing our peers, our colleagues, right? South Florida-based artists in the rocking chair instead of a couch, because we didn't have a couch. But we wanted it to be kind of like psychological. And so we did, for 3 years, we interviewed an artist, museum directors, gallery owners for like once a week.
Yeah.
So we have a collection of 150 interviews, 1 hour long interviews on the rocking chair.
I remember. I was very lucky. I was a guest.
Yeah. What number were you?
I think I might have been 113.
Oh, wow.
I'll let you know. Yeah.
And I took, interestingly enough, I've been thinking about this a lot. I took a Polaroid, like an Instax actually, also a small one.
I still have my Polaroid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each person after the interview was sitting in the chair in front of the banner where there was the whole collection.
Right.
Do you remember
Right.
that?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like also this visual project for me, and it kind of ended when we started doing interviews on Zoom during the pandemic.
Right.
I couldn't do the Polaroids anymore. I invited a couple of people after the fact, but it was not the same, because it had to kind of like be after the interview, right?
Yeah.
So the last 10 or so don't have that real kind of like in the moment image, but all the rest does. So it's a very cool archive, and it's actually also in the public library in the Vasari project. They archived it for us there too.
It's incredible. I'm going to link it in the description so people could listen, and so many local artists and gallerists and curators, and just, it was an incredible, incredible podcast. I was a big fan. I was very lucky to be on it, and you guys did such a good job.
Yeah, it was really incredible, and we started with like, is anyone even gonna do this for us, right? Like Jenna Efren was Jason Aponte, Jenna Efren. Jenna was, I think, the first one. And then we just asked our friends, and then at the end it was like, why didn't you interview me? And we were just like, oh, really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
At the beginning you think no one wants to do it,
No.
and then you're like, you can't do enough. And also what we did a lot of exhibitions. Like we did the first 50 interviews and then made a huge exhibition at the Bakehouse.
Right.
And then we did 25 at Spinello's and then another 25 at Swamp Space. And then the whole 150 at Coral Gables Museum. We got an Ullaid Ellie's grants from Ullaid. And so it was kind of like, we were really invested in this project. Just took a lot of energy.
Podcasts take a lot of time, I know.
And also doing the exhibitions on top of the podcast,
and
right?
so yeah, and having
like
day jobs.
Yeah, and have day jobs. So I was after 3 years, I was kind of like moving on, and I started the alumni, to work with the alumni a lot, and so kind of that took over that space.
That space for it. So what advice do you have for young artists? Is there anything that you wish you were told when you were starting out in this field?
I think one of the things I would maybe tell young people is, one of the things my professor told me when I was graduating and I was like freaking out and like, oh, I need a gallery and I need this and that. And Tony Labat, he actually lives in Miami now. He said, you need a studio, you need a studio space.
Yeah.
So that's what I followed all these years. I've had a studio space ever since I graduated, basically. And I just got 2 more years at the Bakehouse, which I found out yesterday.
You just found out?
Yes, because, spaces are getting tight in Miami. So
Very
it's getting
tight.
more and more difficult.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would probably say is like, think of it more like as a marathon than as a sprint. And, really focus on what is important for your work, rather what is important for, maybe prestige or fame or whatever. Because, when Elisa and I started the podcast, we would always be like, oh yeah, how did you get your gallery representation? Or that was kind of like our big thing, right? Like getting gallery representation. And then we had so many artists that also told us like, listen, it's not going to solve all your problems because
not at all.
It's also very challenging. You might also be limited depending on the gallery, right?
The galleries might want you to continue doing the same thing when you truly want to branch out.
Yeah. So we were kind of like really, I was fresh out of school and kind of naive and like kind of like this was kind of like the goal, right? Or like also this idea of like making money with the artwork, right? And I kind of had to learn the hard way that that's really difficult, and that I took a creative capital workshop, by the way. Highly recommend that.
How was that?
And they were telling me like, you should get a job, like a full-time job. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm gonna work so hard on my artwork and I'm gonna make it, and they were absolutely right. I needed a job.
You need a job.
So it's kind of like this idea of like getting a job that I had a lot of jobs, but now I'm like teaching, I'm teaching art appreciation in college, and I teach art classes in middle school. I have taught in different museums as a teaching artist, and I feel like that is for me, a lot of energy goes towards that. So I was really excited to have more time during the pandemic, so it's kind of like a trade-off, like either you have money or you can make art. But
you need to be able to pay your bills.
But it is important, and also like it is important for me to have a studio space. So I need money for that, right? And so it's kind of like this. It's a balancing act. But like, don't feel bad if you need a day job or if you need a job to support
your passion,
your practice. But also make it something that can support your practice and not that takes over your life completely where you're not in the studio at all anymore. And that balancing act has been really challenging and truly humbling for me to kind of like, have to slow down and obviously I also work like for the alumni organization that's a nonprofit, right? I volunteer a lot of my time. So I could obviously, rearrange that, but that's just a passion project. And if I get into it, I really want to do it well. But this balancing between, this different like nonprofit work, your kind of like day job and your studio time, it's challenging. And I think it's also just, just lean into that it's challenging. It's hard. It's hard to be an artist. It's hard to follow your heart in that way and just, risk kind of like everything. I feel like that's what I did when I like gave up my secure job as a psychologist. I was living in Austria, so I had a really good setup. It was like health insurance and social security and like a job.
All the good things.
All the good things that in America people dream about, right? In Europe, everyone is like, so what? And you're living here and you're like, oh my God, I want that, But it's also, if you feel like, and I kind of like discovered that when I was at the Marlboro, really, if you feel like this is what you need to do in this life, you just make it work, and
Right.
find a partner. Like I found a partner that is very supportive and also takes care of a lot of things, that make it possible for me to keep doing what I'm doing. And so, I think that's important too. It's hard to do it all by yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. Maria, thank you so much for having me over and allowing us into your space.
And for the construction workers to not drill
The whole time. This is real. This is real life. So this is just the way it is. And thank you so much. And I'm going to have Maria's information down below in the description if you want to learn more about what she's currently working on and all about my See, I always have trouble with that word. Auxiliary ego.
It's very bad branding. It's so important to me because...
And I have a stutter, so that's the worst.
Fun fact, my auxiliary ego, it comes actually from my psychodrama training, like psychotherapy training, where you choose another person to step in for yourself in this play, right, that you do in therapy.
Right.
So you play your family, but you choose someone that plays you in that family dynamic, and that is my auxiliary ego. And so it's like this really important. It's horrible because people can't remember, have trouble pronouncing it or like. But it's just been so important to me, so I just stuck with it. But we can call it like MA, right?
You still, guys, you have to listen to all 6 songs in the EP because it's absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. I absolutely love the songs. I'm so lucky to have the vinyl in my possession. Takes pride in place with the collection that I have. So, thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for doing this.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.